Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Me, Jet Martin here, joined as always by the redneck, Brian Bro.
The Dems are in control, and Cuomo is on a roll with gun control.
And the fearless one, C.B. Burton.
Hey!
Hey! Hip-hop parade. Oh.
Did you see that?
See what?
Hasn't
even
been like a week since the election, and Cuomo's already come out running his mouth about gun control, raising the age of buying a rifle or a shotgun from 18 to 21, and he wants to do social media background checks. So he's going to look at your social media before you could purchase a firearm. There's going to be a 10-day waiting period. All this. He's on a roll. He's on a roll.
I saw. Did you expect anything less? New York got more Democrat control in New York right now.
Oh, total.
Think your taxes are going to go up high? I got news for all you folks on Long Island. Your tax is about to go through the roof.
Oh, man.
Through the roof. You'll be leaving soon. Trust me.
Oh, I think my 3-year plan needs to become like a year and a half plan.
It's sad that that's what happens because of liberalism. And you know why it is? They want to replace you with...
Yeah. That's fine.
They want to replace you with Juan Paco and Tamir, the refugee and the immigrant. That's what they want to replace you with.
That's fine. That's fine. I was talking with somebody, recently about that. And, you look at around all the different states, California used to be a red state, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, sure.
Used to be a red state, and then
Reagan won it not very long ago.
And then they all flock to the money. They all flock to where the money is. So they all flock there, and they all want the handout. And then sooner or later, the state becomes more and more blue, and then until California is about to collapse under their own weight.
Why would anyone middle class vote Democrat? Can I ask that question? Are they so brainwashed that they don't know the difference?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So so that's what you have going on over there, and it's just like, and then eventually when that collapses, they're going to go to the states. Look at Texas. Look at their economy is booming. Only a 12% corporate business tax. They're booming right now. And then what's going to happen is people are going to flock from California, and they're going to go to where the money is, and they're going to keep doing that. It's going to keep following the money,
Listen, I got to get into this because everybody's talking about it right now. I think most of you have heard about who Brenda Snipes is. And she's in violation of state transparency laws. Rep. Matt Gaetz told Fox Business Network's Lou Dobbs that Broward County Supervisor of Elections Brenda Snipes would be investigated. Earlier Friday, a judge ordered Snipes to allow immediate inspection of voter records during an emergency hearing Friday. The court was asked to intervene in the tight U.S. Senate race between incumbent Senate Bill Nelson, Democrat in Florida, and Governor Rick Scott, Republican Florida, and the two sides prepare for a possible recount, which I heard is actually going to be happening shortly here. And the lawyers for Snipes argued that requiring such a swift response would interfere with ongoing efforts to finish counting. And I'm going to tell you something. They've already found other ballots all of a sudden out of the blue.
Besides like 19 truckloads of ballots that they tried delivering or did deliver.
They were transferring them from cars into the trucks, and it was caught on tape.
The night of the election. Yep, the night of the election, they were transferring from personal vehicles with single people driving them. So there was nobody else. There was no election officials or anything like that at all in those vehicles. So how do we know that these people did not stop off somewhere, switch these things out? You don't know. You have no idea. And then they're loading them into trucks and delivering them days later as provisional ballots.
What about just a few days ago, somebody at a school in Broward County found a box of ballots in a janitor's closet
that said provisional ballots. And I saw an article yesterday that said that when they looked at these ballots, that they were Democrat ballots.
That's what it is.
So the not one out of the boxes that they found, not one Nobody voted Republican? Come on now.
Well, the thing you have to worry about in here is with Brenda Snipes is that she's already violated voter polling fraud before in the state of Florida. In 2016, she destroyed ballots for the Democrat primary for one of the candidates that she supported and another candidate in the Democrat Party, to be fair, that she didn't. Mm-hmm. She was caught doing it. She's still running voting polls and polling centers in Broward County. Why?
I don't understand how that's not a federal offense.
It is.
How is she not doing jail time?
Well, these are the questions that need to be asked. You know, and stop sweeping it under the rug.
I mean, I would think because the bottom line is this. I mean, if we do anything right, it needs to be protecting our electoral processes. Because if we don't safeguard these things, if we don't make sure that people have a trust in the voting system, then people just aren't going to vote, or they're just not going to believe any of the results.
Well, and the other question is with Miss Snipes. Was it Snipes? Snipes. I'm sorry.
Like Wesley Snipes.
Yes, Miss Brenda Snipes. How many of these people were illegal voters? How many of these people were dead? How many of these people were felons?
Well, she was allowing illegal voting in the state.
Right.
She was allowing that to happen. That's been reported. That illegals and people that were not registered to vote were voting.
Well, lock her up. I don't see what the deal is. Like, okay, we're going to do a recount. What about her, though? She cannot get away with this. That's bull.
I agree.
She needs to be held accountable for this. And, is this the only place this happened over on Tuesday?
Well, I'll tell you, it made me think. You had, what was the woman there in Georgia? She's still refusing to go down to all the votes accounted. And is that going on in Georgia? Is that going on in Texas with Beto and Cruz? Was that what was going on with Lamont and Stefanowski? That was a pretty close race.
Wet ballots.
Was that
wet ballots in Connecticut?
Exactly.
You people should be outraged in Connecticut.
Was that going on? We know it was going on in New Haven.
Think about how easy that is to do in a liberal state like Connecticut.
Oh, sure. They're doing it in red states. You don't think they're doing it in blue states? Look at how much Cuomo won. I don't know a single person that voted for that scumbag.
Well, what we need to know, getting away from New York, about what happened in Broward with Brenda Snipes, is that all 67 counties reported votes by the deadline, except for Broward, which isn't even the largest county. So what took them so long? It's not even it's not the largest county by far.
What took
it's
them
one
so
of the
long?
smaller counties, actually.
You know what took them so long?
Yeah, they had to make up some new votes.
Fraud took them so long.
Get some more...
It's not as though she didn't know what the laws are. You know what I mean? You have an election. You know the state law is that they have to report the number of votes at 30 minutes past closing of the polls. And still on Friday, she wouldn't let authorities know how many more ballots were left out there. If I was that judge, I would just have a warrant for arrest. Done. Voter fraud, charge her with it. They should. I wish they would. I mean, This woman is just... And I guarantee you she has family ties with some very powerful people. I mean, part of it's that she's a Democrat, obviously, and they get away with murder. But I guarantee you she has some very powerful people helping her out. But listen, come on back to Freedom on Deck because we've got a great show for you. And I think you're going to want to stick around because we're going to be talking about nothing. No, we're going to be talking about Tucker Carlson and Antifa showing up at his house
and making him feel very uncomfortable. Come back to Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. You know, tomorrow's Veterans Day, and we love our veterans.
Oh, yeah.
And we remember our veterans on Veterans Day, and we can't thank the veterans that listen to us enough. You guys are the reason we're here doing this. You guys are the backbone of this country.
Amen.
This country is not free without you guys. I mean, you know, we love you, and we just hope that everybody has a happy and safe one, and that that you get to appreciate all the veterans throughout this country. Show them some respect.
That's right.
You know, do something for them, please. Listen, Antifa, the mob, they've harassed people before, right? They've done it to a lot of different folks. They show up at college campuses when there are speakers. They stop traffic and redirect it. They call white people racists. They do Molotov cocktails. They wear masks that they purchase at their local CVS. They rarely shower. They live in their mother's basements. The list goes on why these people are, you know, lower class individuals. But
yeah,
they showed up at the home of Fox News host Tucker Carlson chanting, "Tucker Carlson, we will fight. We know where you sleep at night." The mob formed outside Carlson's home just hours before he was set to go live for his evening broadcast, and Carlson was at work when he received several text messages from his wife explaining that there was something going on outside the home, and Fox News host told the Washington Post that he called his wife right away. She had been getting in the kitchen alone, getting ready to go to dinner, and she heard pounding on the front door and screaming. Someone started throwing himself against the front door and actually cracked the front door. That's scary. Painted an anarchist sign in the driveway, CV. These people are getting very dangerous, and it's being promulgated by the media and their people.
All right. Well, I heard the guy's voice on that, what do you call that, megaphone?
Yep.
And he sounded like a real Mary to me.
A real Mary?
All these Antifa people, they pretend to be so tough. You know, they wear black, you know, sort of like I do, but they try to be tough and they hide their faces.
Got the bandanas on or the face masks.
And they're supposed to be so intimidating, but they're just a bunch of limp-wristed liberals who live in their mother's basements. And how are these people being doxxed? I mean, Tucker Carlson's address was leaked out from somewhere. And you know, Google's very, you know, the employees at Google, they're all lefties. At Facebook, they're all lefties. I think they're leaking people's information from Google, Facebook, or something like that. You know, Gavin McInnes's phone number was leaked out, and he was getting calls, and he had to change his phone number. And it's pretty sad. No,
and it could be just the Democrats themselves. Remember that somebody that was working for one of the Democratic, I want to say she was a senator, and he was working in her campaign offices, and he released all the addresses of the GOP senators.
Yeah,
remember, that was a couple weeks ago.
That was in wasn't that Feinstein's cabinet?
No, because it
Kamala
was
Harris.
No, it was the woman that slipped that letter or whatever that was.
Sheila Jackson Leigh.
Sheila Jackson Leigh. There you go.
Sheila
so it could
Jackson
be
Leigh.
something like that too. I mean, it's Tucker Carlson. It's not a senator or a congressman, but it's a conservative voice.
My favorite is watching Antifa videos where like they're fighting,
where they get beat up,
where they're fighting Americans like us,
Proud Boys,
and everybody listening to this program. And I mean, this
one
one is just my favorite. Is this guy? I mean, he is jacked, and he just one punch, boom, hits this guy in the chin, and he just He just straightens right up like a pencil and falls to the ground. And then he comes around, and this girl, this Antifa girl, is like standing right there, and her face, the fear on her face that he was gonna clock her next, it's the best.
There are a couple good ones. I don't want to say much, but there's one where it's a female with dreadlocks, and I didn't know she was a girl,
yeah.
And she got clocked. I thought it was a dude. I was like, yeah, and then I found out it was a chick, and I'm like, oh, well, I kind of feel bad about it, but kind of don't. I'm sorry. They deserve what they get, don't they, guys?
They do. And, and it reminds me, I just got turned on to this series. It's actually an Amazon series. So if you got Prime, you can see the Amazon series for free. But it's The Man in the High Castle. And the premise is that we lost World War II, and the Nazis and the Japanese took over America. The Japanese control the West up to the Rockies, and the Nazi Reich control the East up to the Rockies. And it's even though it's fiction, it kind of reminds you, the brown shirts are in the streets, and all this stuff is going on. They're persecuting Jews. They're persecuting Christians. And it's a really, really good series to remind you of what can happen when things like Antifa get out of control, when ballots are being fabricated and elections are stolen, and your rights are trampled on, and your conservative views are being thwarted and censored, and your Second Amendment rights are being trampled on. Really good reminder, and you really should watch the series because it really is good.
And Tucker was in the office when this was happening. I'm sure he got the phone call. He was ready to go on the air, and he hasn't been on the air since. And if he was home, would he have gone out there and fought them? I think he would have or should have. And where were his neighbors? How come nobody came out and tried to confront these? I don't want to say. I almost said a curse word.
Well, the neighbors. Listen, you make a good point, CV. Neighbors used to have each other's backs. Neighbors used to have each other's backs and would come out, hey, what the hell are you doing here? Get the hell out of here. These people, I know because they were the ones that reported on it, called the cops and called Tucker Carlson, and he got text messages from his wife. The neighbors actually did reach out to him, but where were they? I mean,
Most of them are
what's going on
too.
in America right now? Listen, no, it's not. Well, it is true. I mean, you have to have your neighbor. There used to be a sense of community around this country, and I think we're losing that. And I think that's why groups like Antifa get away with what they get away with half the time. Politicians rather, certainly drum up this ideology that and the professors and schools teaching them this stuff that they can get away with this, and that's why they do. But also there's a sense of there's no repercussion for these guys. Aside from getting in a scuffle with the Proud Boys once in a while, they're able to do whatever the hell they want, and nobody gets arrested. Why hasn't anyone been arrested that went to Tucker Carlson's house?
I'm surprised that President Trump has not called Antifa,
I think he's close.
A terrorist organization.
The guy that just replaced Jeff Sessions said that they need to be designated as a terrorist group.
I mean, they should. CARE should be added to it.
And the police did nothing. They didn't arrest anybody.
That's what I'm saying.
Maryland is a real Democrat bastion.
Or was it just that they're all wearing masks and you don't know who they are, but they can figure out who they are?
Yeah, it's when that happens, the police should show up. And here's something that I think police need to do. I understand that they got to have sirens and lights responding, especially if they're coming across town, things like that, and trying to get there quickly. But it's like once you're getting towards the area, shut your freaking sirens off. Don't give them the ability to run.
Well, the police in Broward County take the side of the socialists as well. Took the side of Snipes and removed Matt Gaetz when he was filming them.
That's true. Listen, we got to get them under control though. But we're coming back with the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Alveda King. She's the director of civil rights for the unborn, for the Priests for Life. Come on back to FOD. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Chet Martin here, Brian Bro, CV Burton at the helm. Go to freedomondeck.com. Check out everything we have to offer for you there. Now, you may be familiar with our next guest. She's a nationally recognized figure, the Director of Civil Rights for the Unborn, for the Priests for Life. She's also the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and she's a columnist to Newsmax and Fox News contributor, Alveda King. Miss King, welcome to Freedom on Deck.
I am so happy to join Freedom on Deck. Hello, everyone.
It's a complete honor. Look, we all admire you so much. So explain what it is that you do as the Director of Civil Rights for the Unborn and as a pastoral associate of Priests for Life.
Well, as the Director of Civil Rights for the Unborn and as a Christian evangelist, I work with Priests for Life to inform, educate, and activate the communities on the subject of the sanctity of life. That means we care about life from the womb to the tomb, conception, fertilization, until natural death. We don't want to kill the babies in the womb. We don't want to see the children die once they are born. We don't want people to be poor, sick, unhealthy, or as we become aged, we are still vital members of society. So we don't support euthanasia. And so that is my work. I am on social media, on television, radio. Glad to join you on this particular segment to promote this sanctity of life. That's what I do as a Christian evangelist. I just bring the message and the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Miss King, you're the daughter of the late civil rights activist A.D. King, and you were living in Birmingham, Alabama at the time when your house was bombed, and also your father's church. You see the civil rights movement for the unborn as a continuation of the civil rights struggle. Please explain.
As a youth organizer in the 1960s, in the 20th century, I was fighting along with the adults in my life, my dad, Reverend A.D. King, my mother, Naomi Ruth Barbara King, who's still living, my uncle, famous Uncle Martin Luther King Jr., Daddy King, Mama King. So many of us were fighting for freedom. We had the battle for liberty and justice for all people, regardless of skin color. My uncle once said, Martin Luther King Jr., we must learn to live together as brothers and all that as sisters, or perish together as fools. So we were looking for unity, equality, and learning how to live and love together and not to battle and have all of these fights as human beings. Of course, now we're in the 21st century, and we know that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, in the womb and outside of the womb, regardless of skin color or social condition. As a Christian evangelist, of course, my message is to just continue to fight for the children in the womb, the children once they're born, as the children begin to grow into their mature lives. Certainly, we want everyone to have an opportunity to live and to be blessed.
Now, Alveda, here's a question I wanted to ask you, and it's off the cuff. Why do Democrats say that they're the party for Black America when they support Planned Parenthood, which kills off thousands and thousands of Black unborn children on a yearly basis? I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe you can tell me.
Well, as I work on that answer for you, as a Christian evangelist, I tend to say that everybody needs to be fair, to be just to all people in the womb and outside of the womb. The Democratic Party, of course, supports abortion and that kind of thing, and that is not good. But I say that all people, regardless of whether they're Democrats, Republicans, Independent, Green Party, whatever the parties are, then we as human beings are going to have to step to a place and to do what's right because it's right. And that is the message that I really promote. I am a Republican, actually. But when we fight over these party politics things and tell people you can't be a this or you can't be a that and you have to be this, you have to be that, I believe that there's so much more that we can do in educating people about the sanctity of life and asking people not to vote for a party, but to vote for truth, to vote for life.
Dr. Alveda, I read that your uncle, Martin Luther King Jr., was actually a Republican until...
He was not. He was not.
Oh, that's not true.
Martin
Okay.
Luther King Sr. was a Republican. Daddy King was
Oh,
a
okay.
Republican until President
Kennedy.
John Kennedy, got Uncle M.L., Martin Luther King Jr., out of jail. And Daddy King said that he was going to vote for whoever helped with that situation. And it happened to be President Kennedy. And so Martin Luther King Jr., in his own words, says, I'm an independent. I may have to speak to either party at any time. So he was an independent.
I like that.
Alveda, I wanted to ask you, we've only got a little while left with you, but is Planned Parenthood, and talking about Planned Parenthood and their office being put in the inner city communities, why is that done?
Planned Parenthood's founder, Margaret Sanger, during her lifetime, once said, and this is a paraphrase, colored people are like weeds. They need to be exterminated. We don't want the word to get out. So let's cultivate their people and kind of train them to preach this as an acceptable message. And I used to ask the question all the time, how could Dr. Sanger or Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood and the abortion lobby or abortion industry, get doctors and nurses to break the Hippocratic Oath and to join in with this heinous practice of abortion? And so one of her things as a eugenist and a racist who was a consultant to Planned Parenthood, actually, Margaret Sanger spoke at Planned Parenthood meetings. One of her things was to minimize the unfit population, which included African Americans, who we would call Negroes at the time. A lot of people don't know this, and they don't know that the hidden and secret agenda of Planned Parenthood is eugenics and genocide.
Unbelievable. And we all should pray for the unborn. We should all pray for the sanctity of life. And I just commend you on all the work that you do, Alveda. Please let all of our listeners know where they can go, check you out, and check out the organizations that you work for, please.
I'm at civilrightsfortheunborn.org, and I'm the founder of Alveda King Ministries. I'm Evangelist Alveda King, and you can find me at alvedaking.com.
Everybody, that was the one and only Alveda King, and it was our honor to have her on. Listen, we're going to be coming back because we're going to be talking about President Trump and Jim Acosta getting into it at the White House, and what Acosta did was out of line. Come on back to Freedom on Deck. And welcome back to FOD, here with Chet Martin, Brian Bro, and C.V. Burton. Man, that was a complete honor talking to Alveda King. I'll tell you, what a lady.
Oh, yeah.
She had to go, she can only be here for 10 minutes with us. I would have loved to talk to her more, but hopefully she'll come back on the program at some later date. She's just a fantastic woman. Things that she's gone through, her trials and tribulations, and to be such a strong pillar to that community is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Now, listen, we're going to talk about somebody that's not a pillar to his community and is not amazing. Jim Acosta, he is the White House correspondent, or was, and he's no longer allowed in the White House to correspond.
For the fake news network, CNN. Fake news, very fake.
He was caught. He was captured on film struggling with an unidentified White House aide for possession of a microphone while he attempted to ask President Trump questions at Wednesday's press conference that had nothing to do with what President Trump was talking about. By the way, he struggled with the microphone. She let him ask 2 more questions after he was told to get off and to pass the mic, as we like to say around here. And then when she went in for the microphone again, he karate chopped her arm. It wasn't a Miyagi chop, but he slammed down on her arm and pulled back on the microphone as to say, get away. And listen, it's her job to do that when the president says, get the microphone away from him and give it to whoever the next guy was. Whoever that was, and then he started saying, "Well, Jim's actually a great guy," and he's like, "I don't think much of you either."
Yeah, the other jerk from what was it, CBS or ABC,
right?
You know what I don't understand is how come the president, now I know he's in the White House, I know they have credentials, I know they've gone through security and background checks and all that other stuff to be in that room in the first place, but how come he can't just be like, security, remove him?
He can.
He almost did.
I would have. I'm telling you, I think that's what he should have done. As soon as he did that with the microphone to that White House staffer, he should have said, "Security, remove him now."
He was about to.
I would have done that if I was him.
Well, somebody, I forgot who it was, they shared up on my feed that they're back in 2013 or 2014. They shared a video where Obama did kick somebody out of the press.
Yeah, I'm just saying. He should have done that. He should have said, "Security, remove him now." And then once they removed him, I'd say, "Now here's the deal: anybody else tries to disrespect me in this press conference is going to be leaving too,
and touches my interns."
That's right, and puts a hand on a White House staffer is out of here. He has to put them in their place. You don't like it? Listen. They can ask the tough questions. Asking the tough questions isn't the problem. But the problem is, this goes back a long time with the two of them, Acosta and the president. And
yeah, I wonder why.
And you can see it in his demeanor. As soon as he starts going, what's President Trump say? Here we go.
Right.
And then he's like, oh, this and that, the caravan, they're hundreds of miles away. And you gotta love President Trump. He's just like, yes, thank you for letting me know that. I appreciate it.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Like you're an idiot. I don't get press. I don't get what do they call it? Intelligence briefings daily. That I don't know where they are right now.
A part of the problem with Acosta was he wasn't even asking a question. The first words out of his mouth were, "I want to challenge you."
Right.
About the fact that you call them invaders when they're not. And Trump's like, it's a matter of opinion, idiot.
Right. And then he goes, well, they're thousands of miles away. And he's like, well, where are they coming? Their intention is to invade the country.
Yeah. Well, you had video of them climbing across the border wall. And he's like, and he's like, well, they weren't actors, Jim.
Right. Exactly. You made
They weren't from Hollywood.
They made an ad and everybody got in a huff because it showed the fact that there was an illegal immigrant that came into the country and murdered police officers, and he had been deported twice, and he came back in, murdered these police officers, and when he was on the stand, he smiled and said that he would do it again.
Maybe
that's so offensive to report the truth. Even Fox News pulled the ad. Give me a break.
Well, maybe the ad should have showed, instead of them jumping over a border wall, maybe they should have showed the guy that jumped over the border wall near California, where it's like 30 feet high, and he actually breaks both of his legs, and it's on video.
Yeah,
because there's surveillance cameras over there.
But after
he breaks his leg. Well, obviously at a long enough period of time goes by, and Border Patrol ends up coming by and finds him and took him to a hospital.
Yeah, we paid for it.
Blew both of his legs. Boom. See ya.
I have no sympathy for that. I don't care.
Break his
arms.
I'm just saying, maybe that's the video that they should have put up instead.
Well, maybe they should show videos of Kate Steinle's parents burying their daughter. How about that? Or how about show video of Casey Chadwick's parents burying their daughter? Or
they don't care about that.
No, I know they don't care. Of course they don't care. So bring in a bunch of, I don't want to get into the caravan. I don't even know where it is right now. The unvetted, illegal.
Listen, if you think
aliens with criminal records, Jim, you take them, Jim. You take them, tough guy. You're tough enough to challenge the president and hit a woman. So take those illegals in. Coming from Honduras, I'm sure it'll work out real well for you.
If you think that they're going to come in one big caravan to one point on the border, then you are naive.
I just heard that 450 already got in, and I was sorely disappointed because I thought Trump said he was going to prevent them from getting in, but I I think this morning that 450 got in already, and I was really mad.
I kind of saw that coming. I said it. You guys know I said it. I said we can't start bringing them in and putting them in holding centers and giving them care packages, and then eventually we disperse them throughout the United States. That's always what happens. They'd say, oh, we're going to be tough on them. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Oh, yeah, we're going to hold them in a tent. And then what? But then eventually they put them in your communities or someone else's, and nobody says you know what about it. It's over. Gone. Done.
It's Kirsten Nielsen's responsibility, too. She better be doing a better job.
It's all their responsibility, and it's the president's responsibility, too.
That's what I just said.
I know. Listen, we're going to be fair on this show. You think we're always pro-Trump? Well, sometimes we call them for what's going on. Let's get a little stronger here.
And you want to know something? If the funding's not there for the border wall, okay, then listen, put up 10-foot chain link fence and put 3 or 4 rows of razor wire on the Mexican side. Now, could they cut the razor wire? Could they cut the chain link fence? Yes, but it would be something to deter them. You know what I'm saying?
But with the Dems in control of the House, we're never going to get the wall unless Trump uses an executive order.
Never.
Nope.
Plus, if you do an executive order, the wall's not going to be thrown up overnight.
No.
I mean, there's going to be so many battles to go through. I mean, he's got to get elected again.
He can funnel some of that $700 billion that
and
was
with the voter fraud
channeled to the military. He could channel some of that money into the wall.
I don't know.
Theoretically.
I think the voter fraud is just. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg that's going to come for 2020.
In this altercation with Acosta, I will say, and I will commend the presidents for this. He called him out on the carpet again for being the enemy of the people. I hear all the supposed talking heads and the journalists and the media mind saying it's irresponsible to do that. It's irresponsible for the president to call them the enemy of the people. Well, when they're hiding information and giving you misinformation and trying to take down your president and trying to undermine everything that America represents and stands for, they are the enemy of the people.
Absolutely.
So don't give me that anymore. You know, just because we have someone in the White House that we elected, the people, that has a strong voice, that stands up to bullying, that isn't fawned over like Barry. You know, I remember when Barry used to do press conferences, they would just listen to him for like 20 minutes, and he would avert questions, and he would dance around it, and they would just be like, oh, with their mouths open, gaping, looking at the wonder that is Barack Obama. He never answered a damn thing about Benghazi. He never answered a damn thing about diluting our military to the point where some of our Navy SEALs were flying around in helicopters from the Vietnam era. And no one ever challenged him on anything. And now that we have somebody that actually fights for our military, is putting money back into the military, is standing up against the illegal scourge that's coming to this country, they hate him.
Of course.
Who's the enemy of the people?
Well, he's rolling this country back, 50 years, 60 years. That's what they say.
And if the Democrats care so much about the blacks in the inner communities, why are they so for illegal immigration, which competes for their jobs?
Because we've said this before, it's the new thing. They see that a lot of the black community is going away from them. They're starting to stray. They'll walk away.
Well,
so they have to replace them.
Yep. And
that's what it's all about.
And we saw it down in Florida, in Broward County, where they were allowing illegals to vote.
Yeah. They
were allowing them to vote. That's why we need a wall. That is why we need borders.
You can't have...
You have to realize, for those of you listening, I mean, and I'm sure a lot of you do, that your right to vote, that's a sacred right as an American citizen. It is not the right of anybody that is outside of this country. And if they're outside this country and come here illegally, they should not be voting. That should be something that you, at the very least, stand up for, is your right to vote and the sanctity that comes with that right. Nobody else has that right.
Right. And if you're not for
Yeah.
America first, and if you're not for Americans first, why not? Ask yourself that. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, why are you not for America first? You're an American. What about your kids?
Amen to that. Listen, come on back to Freedom on Deck, because we have author Dr. Warren Farrell of The Boy Crisis coming on. And this is an attack against your children, your young men in the schools and in society. And what are we going to do about it to combat it? Come on back. Welcome back, everybody, to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Chet Martin here, joined as always by Brian Bro and C.V. Burton. Make sure you go to FreedomOnDeck.com. Check us out on Facebook. You can like us there. You can follow us on Twitter. You can listen to all our midweek podcasts and also check out any of our replays from the terrestrial radio program heard here on Sundays from 3 to 5. And our next guest is an award-winning international best-selling author. He has been chosen by the Financial Times as one of the world's top 100 thought leaders. He's currently the chair of the commission to create a White House Council on Boys and Men and author of the new book, The Boy Crisis, Why Our Boys Are Struggling and What We Can Do About It, Dr. Warren Farrell. Welcome, Dr. Farrell.
Hello, I'm looking forward to our interview.
So, Dr. Farrell, tell me just in a nutshell, what is the boy crisis?
Basically, I began to discover it when I saw that boys in all 63 of the largest developed nations in the world were falling behind girls in every single academic subject. And the two subjects that are the biggest predictors of success, reading and writing, they are falling the farthest behind. But I was also seeing that boys were having much deeper mental health problems, as exhibited by their suicide rate. That at the age of 9, for example, boys and girls commit suicide at exactly the same rate and very minimally. And between 10 and 14, the boys' suicide rate doubled compared to the girls. And then in 15 to 19, it was quadruple, and 20 to 24, it was almost 6 times the rate of boys' suicide versus girls' suicide. And so that got me asking, what is happening? What's happening in developed nations? And I saw that in developed nations there were 2 things happening that had not happened previously, which is one was that there was, because survival was taken care of to a greater degree, there was much more permission in developed nations for divorce. And among boys that had minimal or no father involvement after divorce, that these boys were doing really poorly, and the ones that had a lot of father involvement, they were doing very well. And then there was another group that was doing badly or had a very large group of challenged boys, and that was boys that were born to mothers who were not married. And the reason for that is that most of the boys that were born to mothers who weren't married, many of them didn't know their fathers at all. And the ones where the moms were living with the dads at the time of the birth of the child, the involvement of the fathers among that group of boys was 4 years. And so many boys, after 4 years, had gotten to love their dads, but then they lost their dads or had minimal connection with their dads. And that was the other huge group of boys that were having enormous problems, much more likely to drop out of high school, much more likely to go to prison, much more likely to commit crime, much more likely to be addicted to porn, more likely to have ADHD, more likely to be addicted to video games, and more likely to be discipline problems and disobedient, etc. And so I was able to look at, when I did the research for the boy crisis, I ended up with more than 70 ways that boys that had minimal or no father contact did significantly worse than girls. For example, that was also turned out to be the single biggest predictor of suicide among boys.
Dr. Farrell, and not to make this political at all, but some conservative voices on television and on talk radio talk about a war on men, and that this is happening in our institutional learning facilities at very young ages. Is there any truth to that? Is there a war on men?
Yes, there's truth to that. But before one digs into that, before we dig into why there's truth to that, let me say that for people who don't know my background, I was the world's leading male feminist for many years. I was the only man ever elected to the board of directors 3 times of the National Organization for Women in New York City. So I don't come at that response or that evaluation very quickly and very easily, and certainly not my nature. It was, I was being paid extremely well with speaking engagements to speak all around the world on behalf of the women's movement, and not paid by the women's movement, but just became very popular in that regard. And so for me to see the initial concept of feminism, which was Gloria Steinem, a friend of mine at that time, and Betty Friedan, we all used to say, what the world needs is more women at work and more men at home. And so, but recently it has become a war against men, because we see a great deal of belief among feminists in particular that we live in a world that they call a patriarchal world that is dominated by men who make rules to benefit men at the expense of women. And that completely misunderstands what men are about. It is true that it is not true that men earn more money than women do for the same work. What is true is that dads earn more money than moms do. And they earn more money because when they become dads, they often give up their passion to be a musician, to be an educator, and they realize that they can't make enough money as a musician, artist, or actor. And so they give up that passion, and they take something that is more responsible, like selling insurance or selling product X to person Y, that makes more money, but they give up the glint in their eyes. And what the feminist movement has done is to make it that the sacrifices that men made to earn more money so that their children would have more options than they had were turned against men, and the men who earned more money, the dads, we were told are people who have power and privilege. Well, the obligation to earn money that somebody else spends while men die sooner is not power or privilege. It's certainly not a definition of power or privilege that women would easily adapt.
I wanted to ask you this as well, Dr. Farrell. Is there a difference in numbers, or have you studied the numbers with the boy crisis that could be occurring in the minority community? Is there an uptick there, or have you really studied those numbers?
I have. In the boy crisis, I start with the Moynihan report in 1965 that looked at inner city boys and girls and inner city communities, and found that the problems of crime and depression and other negative aspects of boys' growth was particularly strong in the African American community. And so there was some suspicion that this may be racial or racist, but when Moynihan, who was the Secretary of Labor and held up the cabinet positions under both Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon, he was both Republican and Democrat, a PhD in sociology, and a U.S. Senator as well. And he found that the issue was not race per se, it was a lack of father involvement in the African American community. And at that point in time, here's the amazing thing, in 1965, when he found this, he found 25% of boys children grew up with minimal or no father involvement, and he found that it was in that group of boys, in particular, but also girls, where the problems with lack of motivation and ineffectiveness in life was happening, unemployment and so on. And so, but now, remember the figure at that point in time in 1965 in the African American community was 25%. Now in the Caucasian community, the figure of fatherlessness or lack or minimal or no fatherlessness is 33%. In the African American community, it's up to in the low 70s, 70%, 70+% do not have father involvement when they're young, and it's among that group of kids. So, for example, children who live in wealthy communities in good neighborhoods that have no father involvement do not do as well, particularly in math and science, as children who grow up in poorer communities and relatively poorly ranked schools that do have father involvement. And so I was just shocked in doing the research for the boy crisis at the degree to which dads and intact families are so important. And I have to tell you that the liberal communities are not open to hearing that because they want women's freedom to be able to be single mothers if they want, or women's freedom to be able to make the decision as to what's better for children after divorce and maybe marry a new man and move out of the state and sort of drop the biological father out of the picture. But, you know, I'm a stepdad, and I learned from my research that stepdads may be wonderful, and I hope I am a decent stepdad, but they're not a substitute for the biological father. And conservatives have been saying this for years, and we haven't been paying attention, and we need to start paying attention.
So how do we get in front of this? Because if we see that there's a child that doesn't have the father figure in his life, whether it's through the mother's choice or the father's choice, how do we get in front of this to prevent this boy crisis affecting the child?
We really need to have we need to pressure our politicians to speak out about this and to make it an issue. And we can do this. We have the presidential primaries will start next year, and we can begin to get politicians to be able to run this as a trial balloon and say we need to put more emphasis on fathers and families, but we also need to be able to hire more male teachers so that boys don't go from female-only homes to female-only schools, and then we wonder why the boys need an authority figure to channel their testosterone, so they turn to a gang leader or a drug dealer. And it makes pretty common sense, but we're not doing that. And one of the things, if we wanted to eliminate school shootings and mass shootings, almost all of your mass shootings are among boys that have minimal or no father involvement. The one a couple of days ago, here in California, Thousand Oaks, that was a boy who had minimal, no father involvement from a very early age. His father died when he was very young. The shooting before that, the boy's father committed suicide at the age of when he was at the age of 6. In Jacksonville, before that, age 11, the boy's father died. And so you just, the Stephen Paddock killing, where there was in Las Vegas, where there was 58 killed and almost 500 wounded.
Yep.
That father, the father of Stephen Paddock, he escaped from prison. He was, first of all, he had minimal father involvement because the father was in prison, but then the father was about to be released from prison in about a year, and he used his genius to figure out how to escape from a maximum security prison. But as a result of that, the father had to stay in hiding. And the boy, Stephen Paddock, so resented that, and I think one of the things that he was able to do, and one of the reasons for his motivation for shooting up 58 people and 500 injured, was because to prove to his father that he was also a genius at being able to figure out how to do that type of thing. And so the boys that have this minimum father involvement have really way more problems than I'd ever seen. And what we need to know is why that is the case. What do dads do that are different from what moms do? Then we need to be able to develop what I call checks and balance parenting, where dads learn how to listen to what mom's reasons for protecting children and nurturing children are and acknowledge the positives of that. And moms need to understand the value of dads enforcing boundaries in the way they tend to do to a greater degree, doing roughhousing and the bonding that tends to create, and the ability to do postponed gratification and how that postponed gratification minimizes ADHD. So I hope the boy crisis is filled with just hundreds of solutions that, even if you don't have a father that can be involved, being able to get your children involved in Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, or involved in a faith-based community where there's a minister, priest, or rabbi that can organize boys of your son's age and help them be able to share with each other what's going on with them, how they're feeling depressed or down, and being able to share with each other that, so the boys don't feel so alone and alienated and rudderless.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Farrell, thank you so much for coming on. Tell everybody where to go and pick up The Boy Crisis.
Well, fortunately, at this moment, Amazon is putting The Boy Crisis on sale, so it's the least expensive place to get The Boy Crisis. Alternatively, if you have enough money to be able to support local bookstores, that's a wonderful place to ask for The Boy Crisis there and just order it that way.
Excellent, excellent. Everybody, that was Dr. Warren Farrell, author of the new book, The Boy Crisis. Come on back to Freedom on Deck, because we're going to be talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She took a tumble. We're going to ask you, do you think she might be retiring, early retirement? Come on back to Freedom on Deck.
I would be happy to.
Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. This song that we're playing for you right now is called Cracked Ribs. I've actually never heard it before. I decided to look up, see what something that had to do with ribs on YouTube, and then I could play it for you guys, because we're going to be talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, I thought it was about Rand Paul.
No, well, he could be for him too, right? Anyway, Ruth Bader Ginsburg took a fall, and we know that she's getting old. She's really old. She took a fall. She broke some ribs. She's recovering. She's actually out of the hospital. She's working at home now and says she will be back. And then there are some reports saying that she's actually going to retire after this year. I don't know whether I believe any of those. They're kind of from some bad sources, so I'm not going to get behind any of that. But how much longer does this lady have to go, really? What do you guys think about all this? Is this the beginning of the end?
She's 85, and anytime anybody cracks several ribs and whatnot, the thing that doctors are worried about is that because it's very painful and you're not taking very deep breaths, so you have a tendency to develop pneumonia. So at 85... you already are at a higher risk of developing pneumonia without cracked ribs.
Yeah.
So that's an issue. Look, I mean, there's got to come a time when the average person says, I'm getting up there in age, and I need to enjoy, my final years with my family and my grandchildren and things like that. I don't understand why at 85 that she would want to continue on. She's been on the court for many, many years. So it's time, in my opinion.
It's time a while ago. Liberals will lose their what
I think
she retires.
I think
when and if it happens, and Trump says I'm putting in Amy. I forgot her last name, but the woman that he was going to pick before Kavanaugh, and he decides to go with that. Forget about it; they're going to lose it.
She's such a raging lib that I think in her own form of resistance, she's going to die on the court, basically.
Amy Conan, that's it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's it.
The average retirement age is 65, so she went 20 years past that. I'm a little suspicious over this whole thing because she's 85 years old. She breaks 3 ribs, and they let her her home already.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
I mean, doesn't she have a hard time breathing? Doesn't her lungs have a hard time breathing? You're supposed to breathe very, very shallowly in short breaths when you have broken ribs like that.
She's probably got a few ribs from Alyssa Milano.
Maybe.
That's right. Alyssa Milano offered her some
Ribs, kidneys,
whatever she needed.
She even offered her husband.
Oh,
She
yeah,
said
that's
you
right.
could have him on the weekends
She offered
or whatever it was.
She offered both kidneys, which means she's willing to give her life to extend the life of an 85-year-old woman just because she's on the bench.
Listen, if sacrificing
Alyssa,
I was about to say that. give Ruth another, couple months, and we don't have to deal with Alyssa Milano anymore.
that's great.
That's perfect.
Deal.
But Brian says that Ginsburg was hot when she was young. Can you explain that?
Really?
Yeah, you got to look up early
Wow.
photos of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was actually very attractive.
Maybe the actress that played her in the movie was hot.
Her college graduation photo. Very very attractive woman.
Unbelievable.
It's a shame. It's a shame her mind is horrible.
Are you still attracted
You
to
heard
her?
it here, folks. You heard it here. Important stuff. Listen, we're going to be coming back with Xander Gibb from XanderGibb.com, host of XRAD. We're going to be talking about Jeff Sessions being asked to step down, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about Jim Acosta and Michelle Obama's new book, and Trump takes a swipe back at her. Come back to Freedom on Deck.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
No games played here. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. WJJF on your FM dial. Chet Martin at the helm with Brian Bro and CV Burton. Listen, go to freedomondeck.com. There you can listen to our midweek podcast. You can listen to the reruns of our terrestrial radio program and all of our archives. And you can check us out and like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, the evil Twitter. Our next guest knows about that. But speaking of which, our next guest is a regular to our program and certainly a favorite to our listening audience and us, from XanderGibb.com and the XRAD radio program, which is coming back. Xander Gibb. Hello, Xan.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
So the show's finally returning. Tell us what's going on with the show.
November 23rd, we'll be back for like a weekly show, and then hopefully a daily show after Christmas.
Okay,
Once
so
I get my feet wet again,
Oh,
I'm sure we'll be going out like weekdays.
and I'll be, I think week 1, right? I'm going to be swimming in the shark-infested waters with you.
You absolutely are. You'll be on the very first episode. It's been really frustrating, to watch like the midterms and I guest on a lot of shows and I appear a lot on the BBC, but it's not the same as having your own show because you don't get to vent so much. And so I've got a lot of like pent up anger ready to throw quite a lot of people, officials, and civic dignitaries. So watch out, people.
Very good. Now, Xander, so you're in the UK, but you certainly are still
I am.
outspoken on American political talk and discussion.
Absolutely.
What do you think about the situation with Jim Acosta belligerently accosting President Trump with an onslaught of political jabs and then refusing to hand the microphone off to a young female intern and, in fact, putting his hands on her?
Well, I've had fights about this here this week because obviously, as you can probably guess, Donald Trump is painted to be, the bad orange man here in the UK. And we know that that's not the case. And this has been building up with Jim Acosta. The guy has got no respect. I often go to press conferences and I'm told you can ask one question or maybe two if you're lucky. So you take the microphone, you ask your questions, and you hand it back. Now, every press conference I've seen with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, he's been rude, he's been belligerent, he speaks to her like she's something she's wiped off his shoe. And if that was my sister, the guy would be getting a good slap by now. So this was a long time coming. So for me, I watched the video several times. I watched it live, but I watched it after because, I've heard so many things like, she physically assaulted him, the president was rude to him. If you come to my house and you start smoking cigarettes and you start flicking your ash in the china, and I say stop, and you don't stop, and you don't leave, then my assistants will take you out, and you will not come to my house again. So if you go to a presidential press conference and you're asked to do something and you don't do it, and then you're told that you need to stop and you don't stop, and you're asked to leave, you have no one to blame but yourself. But this has been brewing for a long time, guys.
Yes, it has. Now, Xander, you kind of brought this up. One of the deranged women from The View claimed that the intern should be reprimanded for abusing Jim Acosta. What do you think about that?
Well, you have to narrow it down. When you say a deranged woman from The View, that could be anybody from the presenters to the producers. But that to me is really ridiculous. I thought she was really professional, even after the first time he'd refused to get the mic over. She kind of bent down, she got out of the line of the camera, and she waited. And I think she acted very professionally. Now, I saw that he karate chopped her arm out of the way. And that was unacceptable. That's an assault as far as I'm concerned. I've been fighting with friends here who have been saying she was in the wrong, she was bad, she was the one that perpetrated the assault. If you're asked to do something by someone in authority and you don't do it, then you pay the consequences, Jim.
That's right. And Acosta said after the incident, Zan, that they need to be prepared for attacks like this against journalists from this administration. But hasn't it always been these biased journalists fueling the fire?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's absolutely hilarious, because the thing is that this just highlights for me how biased the media has become. And I think that this is why we've had the level of response we've had with regards to the midterms. They've been trash talking Donald Trump for 2 years, because they know when it comes to the midterms, they wanted this to be a referendum on Donald Trump. And sadly, that's what it became. But in fairness, we lost far less seats than any other president for the past 3 or 4 terms. So, it's laughable that it's seen in those terms as a referendum on Donald Trump. But the media are not the media anymore. Come back, Walter Cronkite. All is forgiven. These people are vicious, nasty commentators, and all they want to do is do the president down. They don't want to report the facts, and that is exactly what they're paid to do.
Well, and I'm glad you talked about the midterms here. We did keep the Senate. We won some more seats in the Senate, so the Senate's good. The House, like you said, went towards the Democrats. I don't know how much of a referendum that is, because when these people in the House are going to try to push things through to the Senate, whether they want to impeach Donald Trump for using Twitter too much or because they don't like his hair, I think what they're going to find out is that the American people are going to figure out that they're totally unhinged, which I think they already have. And I don't know, Xander, maybe that'll push President Trump towards a second term.
I think you're absolutely right. The thing is that I've said all along, they can talk about his family, they can say what they like about him. But when you actually look at his performance, he's actually doing very well. Job numbers are up, the economy is better, America is, becoming great again, and he's doing exactly what he promised that he would do. And what I find most alarming is, the Democrats are saying how badly things are going, but Barack Obama is more than happy to take credit for it, which makes me howl with laughter. He did nothing right for 8 years, and now he wants to take credit for Donald Trump's first 2 years. It's absolutely farcical. I think that in this next 2 years, it will continue to get better, and people will see that Donald Trump is good for America. Because I think that at the end of the day, when you vote, if you're voting just on a partisan basis, that's absolutely ridiculous. We should be looking at what is best for the country, and what is best for the country right now is to have Donald Trump for another 2 years and then to vote him back in for another 4, because the Democrats have got nothing. Look who they elected in New York. They elected a box of hair. No, I beg your pardon, someone who's as dumb as a box of hair. She says she can't afford to go to Washington. She's looking for apartments in Seattle. This woman is so stupid, it's unbelievable. Really.
Now, Xander, you talked about Obama. I don't know if you saw this, but Michelle Obama put a new book out. I'm sure she got a multi-million-dollar deal on this new book, where she said she'll never forgive Donald Trump for the birther issue. And what's amazing to me is she fully supported Hillary Clinton in 2016, and it was Hillary Clinton that started the birther issue with Barack Obama.
Absolutely, I think Donald just jumped on the bandwagon with regards to the birther movement. But in all honesty, and I'm gonna say this on your show, I still have my doubts as to whether he was born in the United States.
So do I.
Let's look at how not committed he was to the United States during that period. He was interested in every other country, every other Muslim country. Let's be precise, rather than the United States. But I think Michelle Obama needs to do, or should I say Michael Obama, needs to do her research a little better. We still see the videos of what she said when Hillary was running against Barack Obama. Hillary can't keep her own house in order. Hillary can't do this. Hillary's husband is off running off doing X, Y, and Z. And then she has the audacity to be supporting her when she's running for office. Do the Democrats forget that we have video evidence in existence? Are they that stupid? Clearly the answer is yes.
I think that it's more so the folks that support them that are that stupid. I mean, they just let it go and they pretend that it never happened. So I think it's more their voting class. But Xander, we see protests throughout the country right now. There's actually one close to me in Sag Harbor, New York, over the firing of ex-attorney Jeff Sessions. Do you think with this firing that now President Trump will be emboldened to end the Mueller investigation, or what?
The firing of who?
Jeff Sessions, Attorney General.
You mean, was he a comedian? No? I mean, I'm being flippant because, let's face it, what use? This guy was neither use nor ornament.
I know.
Now he can go and work and be an extra for he can be one of those little guys with a fishing rod that sits in your backyard. The guy has done no good in the past 2 years. I've never had any support for this guy. Let's get someone in there that can actually do a better job. This was absolutely nothing to do with Mueller. And they're talking about Mueller now. When they say Mueller, I want yogurt right away. That's what I'm thinking of. But they're talking about Mueller now. Who's heard of Mueller for months? Where is the evidence that was promised with regards to the fact that they're saying that President Donald Trump colluded with Russia to swing the election? We've seen absolutely zero evidence of anything pertaining to the Trump administration. So that just ripped the scab off again with regards to Mueller. But we know that there's nothing there that's even tangible with regards to anything that could be deemed as negative towards Donald Trump. So bring it on. Jeff Sessions is gone. Jeff Sessions wasn't very good as Attorney General. But I have a favorite. I would like Judge Jeanine Pirro to be Attorney General. I think she would be absolutely perfect for the job.
Okay, that was my next question for you, so you already answered my next question.
Next you can ask me who should take over from Jeanine Pirro, and I think that should be me.
Okay, so Xander, you take Judge Xander Gibb on Fox News, and Jeanine Pirro will be the Attorney General. What's amazing to me, Xander, is to watch the media hem and haw about the firing of Sessions, and they never liked Jeff Sessions. For God's sakes, years ago, they labeled him as a racist over some stuff that never happened. They never liked Sessions.
Remember when he was being put in his position as Attorney General, and they were going off?
Oh, yeah. So, Xander, it's always a double standard for them, no matter what.
It totally is. I love that Donald Trump Jr. is on the ball, and he's been putting out there comments that Nancy Pelosi made on social media when Jeff Sessions was first trying to become Attorney General, and recently, and it's like the difference is night and day. Make your mind up, Democrats. We have the ability to recall the things you've said and done before. So we're not stupid. So don't treat us like we are. They never liked Sessions before, but it's always the same with a Republican. When something goes wrong with a Republican and they have to go, or they're not going to be doing their job anymore, the Democrats want to support them. Look, they hated what's his name, flip-flopper John McCain, and as soon as he died, he was like Saint John McCain of Texas or wherever it was,
Yeah.
Arizona.
Well, as soon as he attacked Trump, and they realized those two were against each other, all of a sudden John McCain was the stalwart liberal icon,
the Maverick,
the Maverick, as they like to say.
Maverick. Oh God, don't make me sick.
Well, listen,
they did exactly. Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, the holidays are coming up. Make sure you go out and you get a Sessions on the Shelf.
Yeah. An elf on the shelf. Well, he looks like an elf.
on the shelf, maybe, but not on the show. I wouldn't. I kind of wouldn't want him gift wrapped. The other guy. Oh God, I can't think of his name. Who has become very supportive of
Lindsey Graham, your favorite.
Who's become very supportive of Donald Trump. The thing is that if you look at back shows that I did before Donald Trump was nominated as to be the nominee, I didn't like him. I didn't support him. But at the moment he became the nominee, I put my very extensive weight behind him and have supported him 500%. So people could produce things I said before about Donald Trump, and they have done on social media. But the thing is, that doesn't matter. Are we not allowed to change our mind, about people and about our level of support that we give to them? It's Democrats that have this double standard, and they change their mind all the time. But when we do it, we're not allowed.
Xander, let's tell our audience where everybody can go and check you out.
You can check me out at Xander Gibb. Just join in the Upper East Side.
Absolutely. Everybody, that was the one and only host of XRAD from XanderGibb.com. And go to XanderGibb.com and see everything he has to offer for you, folks. All right? You're not going to regret that. Listen, we're going to come back, and we're going to be talking about Project Veritas. They have a video that shows that there is a proof, and it's promoting a state probe into illegal voting, proof of illegal voting in Texas. Come on back. Welcome back to FOD, Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Tomorrow, Veterans Day, and it's been a complete honor to be with you on your Sunday afternoon. And we just want all our veterans, men and women, to know how much we appreciate them. We know how much you've sacrificed for this country, and we just hope our program gives back a little bit to you in any way, shape, or form. And I want to talk about this because I think it's important. Our veterans fought for our right to vote, our freedoms. And right now, Governor Greg Abbott on Tuesday called for a complete investigation into alleged illegal voting in Travis County after conservative group Project Veritas published a video that purported to show Travis County poll workers saying that non-citizens could vote. I can't verify if this is accurate, Abbott wrote in a tweet. I can verify that it will be investigated, and if it is accurate, illegal votes will be tossed out and wrongdoers will be prosecuted. In the video posted by the group Tuesday, a woman off camera asks two Travis County poll workers in a variety of ways whether her boyfriend, whom she says is part of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, may vote. The woman in the Project Veritas video tells both poll workers that her boyfriend, who is not shown in the video, is a registered voter. Non-citizens, as we know, are not eligible to vote in the United States. And the video shows poll workers telling the woman that anyone who is registered can vote, and they advise the woman to have her boyfriend present his identification to vote, just as Texans are required to do at the polls. So what they're saying in the video, and they aside from this, which I've pulled up from Breitbart, just so everybody knows, aside from the fact that they say that it's not identified and Jim and Abbott can't confirm it, they have confirmed that the two women in the video shown are working at these polling centers. So they say on the video that illegals are voting in Texas. You figure it out.
Wonderful.
Well, Trump had a voter fraud task force, which had to disband after a while because the states wouldn't even comply and wouldn't share their records at all. And then you have this Travis County Chief Deputy Clerk Roland Morgan, who says Veritas is distorting reality. They're undermining the confidence in the election process. Veritas recording may violate state election law that prohibits electronic devices in polling places.
Yeah, they did they came down. I know what you're talking about. I've seen this article.
Well,
they came down on Project Veritas for exposing what these dirtbags are doing.
Well, there's a lot of I was shocked to know and learned only recently on Election Day that the pictures that I took of my ballot in New York State are illegal. You cannot take pictures of your ballot in New York State. So I am an outlaw.
And this is another case of the police officials acting politically in favor of the Socialist Democrats. He called Veritas an alt-right fringe group run by a criminal.
Yeah, it's all right because they're exposing all the criminality that the Democrats are expounding against this country.
Yeah, it's alt-right because they exposed Planned Parenthood for selling human body parts of children, of aborted fetuses. They're
How extreme?
They're alt-right because they show what was the one with the Spanish guy that worked in the White House. Oh, what was that one about? I can't remember.
I have no idea.
He was
don't know.
Wasn't he? Or he wasn't Spanish. He was Muslim. But he was talking. I forget what it was talking about. But they exposed like all this stuff. Oh, he talks about working. Doing these resistance type groups while he's being paid by the government to do his job. It was twisted. But they expose all this fraud.
And they exposed Twitter on shadow banning of conservatives also.
Right.
Don't forget.
Yep.
And now you got this.
Too.
And now you got this.
So are they
a lot of other videos too that they've done a very good job at showing that the Democrats are cheating all the time.
And
they're whistleblowers. That's what I would look at.
They exposed Twitter too.
I just said that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but I'm saying that they're a whistleblower group. They are exposing the fraudulent activities that are going on that people don't understand are going on.
No, it's very frightening.
And this chief deputy, also says that there's no worker by that name that was shown in the video, and there was no school by that name in Travis County. Yeah, it might just be outside of Travis County.
No, they're
right over the borderline or something.
They're lying to you every step along the way. Next week, we've got Josh and Nicole Landers coming on from Parent to Parent Network. And we've also got the ex-wife of Kiss drummer Peter Criss, who has a new book out called Sealed with a Kiss. And she's also famed rock and roll photographer for Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. And she spent 10 years on the road with Kiss in their heyday. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting. So we hope that everybody comes back to us next week. Same Freedom time, same Freedom station. And we're going to send you off with a song dedicated to our veterans. And we want everybody to have a good Veterans Day.
Feel like weeks, the weeks turn into years. I can still see your cheeks holding up them tears. After all the times I'd say I'd be gone away, but not for too long, not for too long, 'cause I'm coming home where my heart has always been, where all the past times made me who I am. Well, I'm coming home to see you again, to look in your eyes and find that no words could take the place After all the things I've seen, I'm proud to be this man, the man that you made me, standing for a cause, the right to be free. I wouldn't trade it for nothing, 'cause I stand for you and me, and I'm coming home to where my heart is on.